But then, greetings again from Prague. I'm going to speak to you today about the emergence of a six-party political system in Germany. The biggest revelation from the recent German state elections has undoubtedly been the rise of the Alternative für Deutschland, the AfD party. The AfD is a political party from the extreme right side of the political spectrum. After the Berlin Assembly elections of September 18th this year, the AfD took 14.2% of the vote. They will therefore be represented at the Berlin Parliament for the first time. It is also rather likely that the AfD will be represented in the Bundestag after next year's federal election. However, the bigger change that is taking place in Germany is perhaps a little bit more subtle. We are currently witnessing the end of an era in Germany, an era in which two big tent political parties ruled the roost. Right now, Germany is entering into a system in which six political parties are at the fore. And it is likely that we are going to see different political coalitions emerge. The SPDs and those from the CDU lost a lot of ground after the Berlin elections. They tallied 21.6% and 17.6% of the votes respectively. So we can say that the so-called People's Parties, which gained prominence after the Second World War, are no longer the be-all and end-all in the German political sphere. The so-called Grand Coalition of these two parties is not only no longer tenable, but also not really so grand anymore. Right now, Berlin's mayor, Michael Müller, of the SPD party, must find an arrangement with at least two other political parties in order to obtain an overall majority. He will not look to the AfD in order to do so, and it is not likely that he will look to the CDU after the election results that the CDU received. That leaves three options open to Michael Müller. He can either enter into political arrangements with Die Linke, which has its origins in the Eastern Communist era in Germany. He could look to the Grüne, the Greens, which are a party from the center-left of the political spectrum in Germany, rather like his own party, the SPD. Or he may look towards the Free Democrats, which are a liberal political party that lost ground somewhat in Germany over the past few years, but have recently started, or will seem to be, becoming a little bit more nationally resurgent. What's most likely to be seen is a red-red-green coalition which would mean that there will be three parties on the left side of the German political spectrum in power. This is already the case in Thüringen in Germany. That said though, even though that may be acceptable in the east of Germany, it is unlikely that a system in which three parties from the left side are in power would be accepted in the west side of the country. It's also likely that those from the right will use this idea of a left republic in order to scaremonger and to encourage voters to back up their parties in next year's federal elections. So, paradoxically, even though there are now 6 political parties at play in German politics, Merkel's CDU are most likely to remain in power after next year's elections. The question now is not whether or not Merkel can retain power and remain Chancellor after next year's elections. Germany, by the way, does not have any term limits, so indeed Merkel can remain Chancellor after next year's election. But the question is whether or not Merkel actually wants to. There has been some power struggles within Merkel's conservative bloc. Especially, Merkel has received criticism from Horst Seehofer, who is the premier in Bavaria, in the south of Germany. He is also the head of the CSU, which is the Bavarian sister party to Merkel's CDU. Usually, the two parties, the CSU and the CDU, campaign together for one chancellor, and they usually end up forming one political group in the German Bundestag. That said, over the past year, the CSU has heavily criticized the CDU concerning the refugee policy that has been taken on board by Angela Merkel. So, if Angela Merkel is going to be brought down because of her refugee policy, it is likely to be because of contention within her own political bloc, and not due to the election results after next year's federal election.